President Trump ordering the two nuclear submarines to what he says are the appropriate regions. Trump last night telling Newsmax he moved them closer to Russia. This is all in response to threats made online by Dmitry Medvedev. He is the former president of Russia, who is now the deputy chair of Russia's Security Council. Medvedev posting online this week, warning President Trump not to play the ultimatum game with Russia, saying each new ultimatum is a threat and a step toward war. Trump's patience with Russia has been wearing thin over the war in Ukraine. Russia attacking Kyiv on Thursday, Trump calling it disgusting, adding, what Russia is doing is very sad. Trump now giving Russia a deadline to end the war or be hit with sanctions, but admitting he's not sure if sanctions even bother Vladimir Putin. Trump says he moved the submarines just in case what he calls the foolish and inflammatory statements are more than that. The president saying words can often lead to unintended consequences. This morning, not clear what kind of submarines have been deployed, whether they are nuclear armed or nuclear powered. The White House not giving us any details on that, saying that's actually a part of their strategy. They're calling it strategic ambiguity. Trump says he is doing all of this for the safety of the American people. Gio.
A serious situation to watch there, Perry. Thank you so much.
This is the emergency alert system. This is not a test. The following message is transmitted at the request of the United States government. At approximately 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, President Donald J. Trump authorized the strategic repositioning of two U.S. nuclear submarines in response to escalating threats from senior Russian officials. This action follows a direct warning from Dmitry Medvedev, deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, who referenced Cold War-era nuclear retaliation protocols and described recent U.S. ultimatums as a step toward war. President Trump stated, "Words are very important, and can often lead to unintended consequences. I hope this will not be one of those instances." The Department of Homeland Security has elevated the national threat level to severe. All citizens are advised to remain calm and prepare for potential disruptions. This includes reviewing emergency plans, securing essential supplies, and staying tuned to official government channels. At this time, there is no confirmed threat to the continental United States. However, out of an abundance of caution, emergency shelters in major metropolitan areas are being readied. Local authorities may issue additional instructions. Do not call 911 unless you are experiencing a life-threatening emergency. Keep communication lines open for first responders. Further updates will be provided as the situation develops.
Welcome back to Fault Lines. It's August 7th, 2025, and we're recording this just hours after what might be the most consequential military maneuver of the decade. Talia, I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say we're staring down the barrel of a new Cold War.
No, Jack, you're not. At 6 p.m. Eastern, President Trump authorized the repositioning of two Ohio-class nuclear submarines. That's not routine. That's strategic signaling, and it's aimed squarely at Moscow.
Let's talk about what triggered this. Dmitry Medvedev, former Russian president, now deputy chair of their Security Council, made a statement that's chilling even by Kremlin standards. He invoked Cold War-era retaliation protocols and said, quote, "Ultimatums from Washington are a step toward war."
And Trump responded with a line that's already being dissected by analysts. Words are very important and can often lead to unintended consequences. That's not saber-rattling. That's a warning, maybe even a plea.
So let's break this down. What does repositioning subs actually mean? These are stealth platforms. They carry Trident II missiles. They don't just move unless there's a message to send.
Exactly. It's not just about deterrence, it's about visibility. The Pentagon wants Moscow to know, we're watching, we're ready, and we're not backing down.
And the domestic response? DHS raised the threat level to severe. Emergency shelters are being prepped in major cities. That's not theater, that's preparation.
I spoke with a source inside FEMA who said they're dusting off protocols not used since 9/11. Evacuation routes, food stockpiles, even contingency plans for EMP scenarios.
EMP? That's terrifying. But let's not panic. There's no confirmed threat to the U.S. mainland. This is posturing, high-stakes, dangerous posturing.
Still, the public's rattled. Social media is flooded with footage of military convoys, satellite images of submovements, and conspiracy theories about DEFCON levels.
Let's talk DEFCON. Officially, we're still at DEFCON 3. But insiders say NORAD's posture is shifting. That's one step away from full readiness.
And the international reaction? NATO's called an emergency session. China issued a vague statement about regional stability. And Israel, well, they're unusually quiet.
Which is telling. Silence can be louder than words in diplomacy. Honestly, we're in uncharted waters. The Cold War had rules. This doesn't. And when rhetoric turns into movement, especially nuclear movement, the margin for error disappears.
So where does this go? Is this just brinkmanship? Or are we on a path to escalation? We'll keep watching. We'll keep reporting. And we'll keep asking the hard questions.
Stay safe, stay informed. This is Fault Lines.
There is concern tonight at several major airports in the U.S. after hackers based in Russia targeted LaGuardia, LAX, O'Hare, and Hartsfield-Jackson in Atlanta, hacking their websites. Here's Gio Benitez.
Tonight, some of the nation's biggest airports are scrambling to protect their websites after a coordinated attack by hackers who officials tell ABC News were operating inside Russia. The first so-called denial of service attack hitting LaGuardia Airport's website at 3 a.m. this morning. Then America's busiest, Atlanta's Hartsfield, LAX, and O'Hare. More than a dozen airport websites hit with a denial of service attack, essentially jamming the websites with data.
Airports have always been a target of interest for these adversaries.
While no flights were affected, experts say the group claiming credit for the hits, known as KillNet, has stepped up cyber attacks on NATO allies since Russia's invasion of Ukraine began, and claimed responsibility for taking down a U.S. Congress website in July and several state government websites last week.
This is the type of actor that we are very worried about carrying out a destructive attack, but that's not the case here.
And David, airport operations were not affected, neither was ticketing, but tonight federal officials are taking these cyber attacks.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency and the City of Boston. At approximately 7:42 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, a widespread power outage occurred across the greater Boston area. The outage has affected multiple neighborhoods, including downtown, Back Bay, Roxbury, Dorchester, and parts of Cambridge. In addition to the power failure, the region is currently experiencing a disruption in 911 emergency services. Residents attempting to reach emergency responders may be unable to connect through traditional phone lines. Authorities are working with utility providers and telecommunications companies to restore services as quickly as possible. Backup generators are being deployed to critical infrastructure, including hospitals and emergency shelters. If you are experiencing a life-threatening emergency and cannot reach 911, please go to your nearest fire station, police precinct, or emergency shelter. Emergency personnel are stationed at key intersections and public buildings to assist. Residents are advised to stay indoors and avoid unnecessary travel. Use flashlights instead of candles to prevent fire hazards. Conserve phone battery and limit non-essential communication. Check on elderly neighbors or those with medical needs. Do not call 911 unless you are experiencing a true emergency. Updates will be provided through local news outlets, NOAA weather radio, and official city social media accounts. This message will repeat.
No power. No emergency services. No explanation. And no one's talking. This is Fault Lines. I'm Jack Monroe.
And I'm Talia Quinn. We're coming to you from a backup uplink outside Worcester. The city behind us is dark. And the silence. It's not just eerie, it's engineered.
We've spent the last 24 hours chasing leads. Utility spokespeople are stonewalling. City officials have gone dark. And the federal response? Non-existent.
We spoke to a grid operator off record. He said the failure wasn't physical. It wasn't digital. It was deliberate. His word, not ours. We have a source on the line.
They shut it down. Not a malfunction. A command. From somewhere high up. And now they're scrubbing the logs. But
what's the motive?
Test. Or punishment. Or both.
We've also confirmed that 911 systems are down statewide. Hospitals are rationing fuel. Communications are patchy. And yet, no emergency declaration. No press conference. Just a blackout. And a void.
We've seen this before. Not here. But in drills. Simulations. The kind they run when they're preparing for something big. We have this voicemail that was sent to us.
I'm in Southie. My mom's diabetic. We've got no fridge, no meds. No way to call for help. If anyone's out there, please.
We don't know when the lights will come back. Or if they will. But we do know this. Someone knows what happened. And they're keeping quiet.
We're not going anywhere. We'll keep digging. Keep broadcasting. Because truth doesn't need power. It just needs a signal.
This is Fault Lines. Stay sharp. Stay connected. And if you're in Boston, stay ready.
This is the emergency alert system. This is not a test. The following message is transmitted at the request of the United States government. At approximately 8:17 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, a coordinated cyber attack was launched against critical infrastructure across all 50 states. The attack has disrupted power grids, telecommunications, financial systems, and emergency services nationwide. In addition, NORAD has confirmed that an electromagnetic pulse, EMP, device was detonated over the central United States. The source of the launch has been identified as the Russian Federation. The EMP has disabled satellite communications, GPS networks, and electrical systems across a wide radius. The full extent of the damage is still being assessed. All citizens are urged to take the following actions immediately. Disconnect electronic devices from power sources to prevent damage. Avoid travel unless absolutely necessary. Seek shelter and conserve battery-powered devices. Do not attempt to contact emergency services unless in a life-threatening situation. Local authorities will provide updates as available. FEMA and the Department of Defense are coordinating emergency response efforts. This is a national security emergency. Remain calm. Stay indoors. Monitor battery-powered radios for further instructions. This message will repeat. This is an emergency alert issued by Public Safety Canada. This is not a test. At approximately 6:42 p.m. Eastern Time, a high-altitude electromagnetic pulse, EMP, detonation was confirmed over the continental United States. Simultaneously, a large-scale cyber attack has disabled critical infrastructure across multiple U.S. states, including power grids, communications networks, and transportation systems. While Canada has not been directly targeted, cascading effects are already being observed. Border crossings are experiencing outages, and telecommunications disruptions have been reported in southern Ontario, British Columbia, and Alberta. All residents are advised to take the following precautions. Limit use of mobile devices and internet services to preserve bandwidth. Prepare backup power sources if available. Charge essential devices immediately. Avoid travel to U.S. border regions unless absolutely necessary. Monitor official government channels, radio broadcasts, and alert-ready notifications for updates. Report any suspicious activity or infrastructure failures to local authorities. Canadian cybersecurity teams and emergency services are actively coordinating with U.S. counterparts. The Canadian Armed Forces are on standby to assist with border security and emergency logistics. This is a precautionary alert. Remain calm. Stay informed. Be prepared.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
This is an emergency alert issued by Alberta Emergency Management Agency. This is not a test. At approximately 7:18 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, a widespread power outage occurred across the Edmonton metropolitan area. Multiple neighborhoods are affected, including downtown, Strathcona, Millwoods, and West Edmonton. In addition to the power failure, 911 emergency services are currently offline. Residents attempting to reach police, fire, or medical assistance may be unable to connect. Authorities are actively working with utility providers and telecommunications companies to restore services. Emergency response teams are being deployed to key intersections and public buildings. If you are experiencing a life-threatening emergency, proceed to your nearest fire station, police precinct, or hospital. Emergency personnel are stationed at designated community centers and shelters. Residents are advised to stay indoors and avoid unnecessary travel. Use flashlights instead of candles to prevent fire hazards. Conserve phone battery and limit non-essential communication. Check on vulnerable neighbors, especially the elderly or those with medical needs. Do not call 911 unless it is a true emergency. Updates will be provided through local news outlets, battery-powered radios, and official city social media accounts. This message will repeat.
Artlist.io.
This is an emergency action notification. This is not a test. The United States government, in coordination with NORAD and U.S. Strategic Command, has confirmed multiple intercontinental ballistic missile launches from the Russian Federation and the People's Republic of China. Missiles are inbound toward major U.S. cities. Estimated impact within 10 to 20 minutes. Confirmed target regions include Washington, D.C., New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, Dallas, Seattle, San Diego, Miami. All citizens must take immediate protective action. Seek shelter in a basement or interior room away from windows. Use heavy materials to shield yourself from blast and radiation. Do not attempt to evacuate. Roads are unsafe and emergency services are overwhelmed. Remain indoors and monitor battery-powered radios for updates. This is a DEFCON 1 national emergency. The president has been moved to a secure location. U.S. military forces are responding. This message will repeat. This is a NATO-wide emergency. This is not a test. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization has confirmed coordinated nuclear missile launches from the Russian Federation and the People's Republic of China. Multiple NATO member states are under imminent threat. Confirmed targets include United Kingdom, London, Birmingham, Glasgow, France, Paris, Marseille, Lyon, Germany, Berlin, Frankfurt, Munich, Italy, Rome, Milan, Naples, Poland, Netherlands, Belgium, Spain, Norway, and others. All citizens must take immediate protective action. Seek shelter in underground bunkers or reinforced basements. Use heavy materials to shield against radiation. Avoid travel. Emergency services are overwhelmed. Monitor local emergency channels and NATO broadcasts. DEFCON 1 protocols are active. NATO forces are responding. Allied governments have activated continuity plans. This message will repeat.